music. And we're live, by the way. Like, everyone can see us and everything.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
And welcome to...
Hello, everyone.
I was about to say hello, everyone, and welcome to Twitch.
You're not wrong.
Welcome to
Also,
Twitch.
yeah.
It's, I won't talk about it. I get in trouble. So it's Dragon Riders, the penultimate episode number 7. And yeah, things are gonna be good and fine and dandy. And so this is the Wandering Inn. There is a Twitter, there is a YouTube. If you want to check out all the VODs, go to the YouTube, watch it there. Drop down a like if you like the video, drop down a comment, say things if you like. Something some people have been asking me, and something I forgot, is that when I said in the last episode of Dragon Riders, like, hey guys, let me know what color your dragon would be. I forgot that the list isn't publicly available because it's in the system, and the system is available on Patreon. So I was basically like, hey guys, if you want to comment on this video about what color dragon you'd have, go give me a bit of money and then download the system and look through to find the colors and everything. So, you know, that you can still go back and comment on that thing, but you'll have to remember what dragon colors there were. There's 12 of them and 4 different types. I guess it's something we haven't like covered too much because
That's too many to remember.
it is too many to remember. Okay, let's see if I can remember.
Ooh.
Dragon, Wyvern, Hydrang, Lungron. Oh fuck.
That's it.
Green, red,
Brown.
brown, silver, gold.
There's yellow.
Sky blue, dark blue, yellow,
Pink.
grey, pink.
Black, white.
No, those aren't.
Playable.
There's 2 others. There's 2 others, and I can't remember them now.
Magenta.
No, not magenta.
Green, gold,
Chartreuse.
violet.
Mauve.
Yes, violet. Oh God, how did I forget violet? Avenda was violet. Iliagar's dragon was violet.
Was. That's why you forgot.
Yeah.
The dream.
And there's one other,
grey.
but I think I said grey.
I have a list.
Anyway, yeah, there's Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, which is less than a Twitch subscription, you can support the show. Essentially, what I'm saying is, ignore Twitch, go to Patreon and subscribe there. Anyway, I said nothing. Additionally, there are other benefits. Probably tomorrow you're going to get the finale of me reading the manga, which is the last part of Girls' Last Tour. I cry quite heavily. So if you want to see me cry, watch the last few episodes of Girls' Last Tour. I do a little watch along, and now I have to think of what show to watch along with you guys next. Past that, you get to join community events if you want. It's just a little thing, but we've been playing some Deep Rock Galactic, and we play board games quite a lot because I like board games, and I've finally found an excuse to get people to play with me. They give me money, and then they have to play board games with me.
It seems like...
What
no,
a
I'm not
scam.
gonna... That sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal. It's a lot of fun. Additionally, there is some talk about with some of the higher tiers getting like a campaign going, something casual like Pathfinder, D&D, or whoever, whatever. And all of us being able to play. I'll grab us a GM, a DM. That's in the works. And past that, the other thing that I want to do, and the other thing that the top high patrons should start thinking about, is I'm going to start doing ad reads for you. The ad reads will be made by the top tier patrons, who will basically write a fake sponsorship, and I'll have to read it out at the beginning of the episode. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Oh, wait, did I mess up? Wait, no, I didn't. It's fine. Wait, did I mess up?
There's a little bit of the bottom of Dan in the top of Katie.
Yeah, I see. All right, I got this. Katie, move your camera.
I did?
No, it's a
no,
cropping
no,
you did it
issue.
directly.
No,
Don't
it's 100% my fault.
Don't blame Katie for that.
Damn it, Katie. How could you do this? Okay.
How could you allow Sheepy to crop the camera incorrectly, Katie?
Yeah.
Tisk,
Tell
tisk,
me.
tisk.
I never allow anyone to crop the camera correctly.
Correctly.
The most annoying thing about that is I actually checked the cameras and I was like,
Yeah.
yep, they're all fine. And nothing wrong there.
It like blends in, so it
Yeah,
makes sense.
until Dan talks, that's when you notice the
Yeah,
green
you
box.
notice it's moving.
Oh, I see. So it's my fault now.
If only
Yeah.
you hadn't talked the whole
Man,
episode.
what
I
have
would-
we done?
How dare you be animated and talk?
By the way, I'm assuming Mark's running the poll. You can probably put a no on Sheepy nailing the intro for this episode. Just FYI. So we were doing intro stuff, which is me talking about all of the things. And there's a Discord. There's a Patreon section for the Discord. There is a Twitter. If you go follow the Twitter, you'll get notified. Well, you'll be able to get notified for when the show goes live. Same as in Discord, when the shows go live. It's useful because while we do have a schedule, the only one that is solid is the Monday show. Monday show is fully funded by the Patreon, the cast pay. Friday less so, which is a shame because I have some ideas for the Friday shows. For now, it'll essentially be as and when I can manage to do additional shows. But if you want to see me do more shows a week, go to the Patreon, subscribe to that Patreon at whatever tier you feel like, and eventually you'll force me to do 2 shows a week. So, with that done, let's go over what happened last week. Now, if you think it's silly that I can't remember all colors of the dragons, I think it's even more silly I can't remember exactly what happened last week. I should have gone over my notes from last week. Oh yes, no, I remember now. Last week we had the riders enacting a plan of gigantic proportions to steelbooks. Or probably reclaim, really, wasn't it? I would say more accurately.
Commandeer.
Yeah.
Reclaim.
Hours.
Repatriate.
It's basically like inheritance, basically, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ours. It was always
Kinda
ours.
sad.
Yeah.
We earned this by doing nothing. We're trust fund babies.
There you go. And by doing so, they kind of crept close to a camp which was filled with soldiers and maybe a couple of other things from Cargilia, who are attempting to excavate, to claim, etc. And on inspection, I believe Tourmaline noticed the presence of magic, if I'm right, or was it? Yeah, it was Tourmaline who noticed, and then it was Argent and Cassandra who investigated, rolled really well, and managed to follow the path of these kind of like warning perimeter of magic. Followed the path of that back into the minds of 2 mages, took over their minds, and then cancelled out the magic, and then basically threw out a whole load of sleepy magic gas, essentially, let's call it that, and put everyone to sleep for a while, essentially meaning that they didn't need to sneak in, they could just gallivant in, take a whole load of books. As I remember, Ultra was the most helpful with the book gathering, and
Obviously.
yeah,
He found some kindling for us.
oh yeah.
You know,
Multi-purpose.
we live in a swamp, but it's okay.
And essentially, they found a multitude of books. Just as a sidebar, I gave you the most cogent of the books, the ones that would seem the most important to you. There are more books, so you don't have a giant library, you have a decent bookshelf of books. It's not just the ones I told you about. Going past that, they did have... Oh, I'm not going to remember her name. They did have another rider with them who had come down from the mountains. And that rider's name is right here in my notes as Atolla Elise. With her green wyvern Disarden. And she had met and started essentially working with one of the previous dragon riders we met, Aradan Trueshield, who had basically given up on people and decided to go into isolation up in the mountains to the south, near the frozen wasteland of where it's just lots of snow back there, basically. And yeah, she was looking for information on some weird snow entity being storm thing that was wandering around, and said, yeah, there you go. It's appears to be a primal of some kind, but doesn't appear to be dangerous, inverted commas. It doesn't appear to have too much of a driving desire to rent and tear. So, with that, pretty much with that, she left. I do believe there was a little mention of a village up there that they've had some contact with, which caused Ultra to essentially be like, oh, is that my village? And yes, it was. Unfortunately, through that conversation, Ultra found out that Elder Silka, the one who saw her off a couple of years ago, has died of old age and has been replaced by Elder Jerica. At that, Ultra got a little bit upset and headed off by herself. And I believe that's essentially where we ended. I don't think you had settled on a full plan and way to go. So, with that
We
said,
had a lot of information, didn't we?
yes. With that said, we shall come to view two figures on the hillside. It's probably a small amount of snowfall. Not much, just a few flakes falling, as you are reasonably close at this point to the snow line, and it snows up there quite a bit. Ultra and Ardor have travelled a little ways away from the swamp, just to find somewhere a little bit more isolated, and have perched upon a little plateau up the mountain. Well, up the hill that leads to up the mountain, essentially. The sun is starting to go down, so the sky is essentially lit with yellow-orange, fading into red, and both figures, one a lot larger than the other, are staring out over the swamp, over into the forest, and in the distance, semi-hidden by the clouds and the encroaching darkness, you can see some of the plateaus, the pillar-like mountains that used to be Harrowhold. Probably been here for anywhere up to 30 minutes in almost complete silence. And the question is when someone breaks that silence, who is it?
You probably see Ardor trying to catch some of the snow. One head is like probably close to Ulcha, if not like surrounded. And then the other one's just catching snowflakes, like trying to catch and distracted. You probably feel Ulcha a lot of wiggling. Like, I don't know how to sit still very well, but I'm here to comfort you.
I think just even in the silence, Ulcha's just kind of petting the head that's near her the closest and just kind of almost like absent-mindedly or without, just like a second nature thing, just kind of petting you and probably used to your wiggling. So even though it's not like not recognizing that sitting here is probably a lot for you, and that movement is more comforting than probably just sitting here without that. Knowing that there's a presence here that of someone who cares about me, or the dragon who cares about me, is much better than being alone. Ulcha's just staring off into the swamp, very much in a very like a dissociative gaze. The view is beautiful, but she's not really looking at it.
It is also tempered a little bit by the fact that the swamp is growing darker, and especially in the waters, that darkness, the inkiness is spreading and has stained some of the banks and some of the small little islands in it as well. Sorry to be a downer during the scene, but I had to point that out.
I think in the moment, like the light's changing, so that in a way is kind of sensory shifting. Oh, something in the environment is moving. And I'll lean back a little bit and look over at Ardor. And just, without saying anything, just take off my feathers. And just take off the shawl that has all of her feathers on it. And then angry as a way to throw it down, but still gentle at the same time, kind of throws it at the ground.
With my other head, one that's not catching snowflakes and the other one that's not catching you, I'm going to pick it up in my mouth and put it back on your lap.
It's not fair.
What's not fair?
Start playing with the feathers and kind of pushing them down. I probably messed them up a little bit by throwing them on the ground, so it's like trying to smooth them out. You met Silka, right? I mean, you remember Silka.
I remember Silka. She was very nice.
Where I come from, you're not supposed to pick favorites. Like, everybody loves everybody. We're all a big family. We're all one unit. Silka was my favorite.
It's okay to have favorites. There are people in this life that we get along with better, like you and me. I get better along with you than I do with Cynthia. And that's okay. You loved them.
The last bit, I've been more angry with them than thinking fondly on mornings I would meditate with Silka or sharing a meal or a story. And I've been sitting here just seething in anger about what it all means. And now I have no way to talk to her again or ask her questions or figure out what it means to me.
Oh. Why can't you talk to her? Just because she's not here in person doesn't mean that you can't ask her questions.
She can't answer. She can't. She's dead. She died and I wasn't there.
But you know her, right? You know her as a person and her heart. So you might not get a definite answer, but you know an answer in your heart of what she would tell you.
You know when... I mean, I don't know what death's supposed to be like. I've seen it a lot, but like... There's just been so much death.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say goodbye at the very least.
We can say goodbye now.
It's not the same. She doesn't know that I wasn't there.
Who says she doesn't know?
Where I come from, there's a huge ceremony and everybody gets a chance to say goodbye. I wasn't there to say goodbye.
Can we do our own ceremony?
I don't know what the point is.
To say goodbye. You just said that.
It's one of those things too where I'm like, is she even gone? Is she even... It's like you have the information, but you don't know if it's true or not.
Do you want to go check?
I fear if we go back, we're going to draw attention to a place that seems mostly untouched. And then there'll be more people who die. And that time it'll be my fault.
Okay. So we stay and we honor her here. And if she hasn't passed away, well, then you just honored her because you love her. And you wanted to remember her. Right?
She would have hated everything that's changed. Maybe it's better that she's gone. I know I've let her down over the last bit because I have not been the person that I was when I left. I don't know that I want to be the person I was when I left. It's complicated and makes me confused, and I'm angry and I'm sad, and I just want it all to... Just want some closure, and every time I feel like we get a book that maybe slams shut, like another chapter gets written and more bad stuff just keeps happening. It's just like the bad news is piling up and it keeps piling up. And now the one person that I feel like I could confide in from home is no longer there.
Life's about change, though, right? Isn't that what... In not a good way that it happened, but desolation brought change, right?
It
And-
literally brought what its name is.
But don't we get to build something new? And that's change, but it can be beautiful and
I
exciting.
look out at the swamp that is... Looks like a darkness is creeping through it. Feel like I've slipped into a hole. It's dark and it's just like a slight slant, and I just keep falling into it further and further, and I keep trying to grab the roots and the rocks, and I'm trying to crawl out and I can't crawl out.
I would give you my tail to grab.
I know. I don't want to drag you in here with me.
Oh, you can't drag me in. I'm too big.
The darkness can be really big too.
But that's why we have each other.
don't know how you're always so positive. Do you not see this? And I gesture towards the swamp.
I do. But I see
thought-
that we get to take something out and we get to have a battle. And I go, rawr. That's fun.
I if it's okay, I'd like to take a moment to jump into Ardor's heads quickly. Well, let's say Ardor's mind. Because I think it highlights something reasonably important, this conversation, which is the disconnect between the human mind and the dragon mind, where like Desolation was scary. I don't think the change that Desolation brought has really affected the dragons the same way.
No.
Even though they hatch with riders and they're brought up with riders, they still have a wild part of them. And the downfall of civilization, or the possible downfall of civilization, or chaos that could ensue, probably doesn't register as like a tragedy or anything else. It's just another state of being. And I imagine in this moment, if we also consult with Ultra's mind, that's probably something that has been it's there for all of you as riders, but I would imagine it is there really like prominently for you right now.
Well, we've lost like people we trained with, our leader, our trainers, Jarix, like just people that we don't have like any answers. We're still trying to figure it out. And then like her home base, she feels comforted knowing that it's safe. But then there's almost something worse about knowing that someone you cared about passing away without you knowing.
Yeah.
And not being able to be reached or to
Not being
have
there
that.
or...
Yeah. I know you're still a baby in a lot of ways, not meaning that in a negative way. And I'm honestly glad that you have a different perspective than me, because I don't think that would help. I just always told myself I was going to be there when Silka finally went.
That was before you became a dragon rider. You can't know what's going to happen a week from now. Like,
She
you don't
was
know.
so proud of me for getting to do this and becoming a dragon rider. She's the one who sent me here. Well,
She's
not
so
here.
proud of you. So why would you think otherwise? Just because she's not here doesn't mean that the love, the care, the pride that she had for you is gone. That's in your heart.
Is that how you would feel if I died?
I would
Or would
know,
you?
I would know you loved me. I would know that you cared about me. I wouldn't be the same though.
That's
And
kind of
that's-
what it's like for me right now. She's the closest thing I had to say a mother. A friend. There's just something about not being able to go back home safely to just see her grave or even touch the headstone.
And I say we make our own. We make a place that, like, you can meditate anywhere. We make a place that we can get to that you can honor her the same way. Does it have to be in one specific spot?
No, I feel like to shift it now. I feel like I need to take it with me versus leaving it somewhere that I come to and forget about. And then you go back and you take that time to think about it. I think I need to carry it this time.
That sounds good. We're mobile. We like to fly. And it's
I
always
start-
with you.
I start like looking at the ground for some stones, like a small stone of some kind. She loved meditating, and she was the one who taught me how to meditate properly, which I know I have not been doing lately, but she used to say, if you had a hard time, you take a small stone and you hold it in your hand, and you feel the weight of it, and you feel its edges, and you feel its texture, and it brings your mind into the present moment. So if we find a good stone, I just reach around, pick a few up, feel the weights, and feel like the textures of it. And
I'm probably trying to like nuzzle more dirt towards you and not helping.
but I appreciate the effort. And so I think in one of the dirt piles you push forward, there's like a stone that kind of gets unearthed and has some dirt on it. And I pick it up. It's smooth on one side and jagged on the other. So I dust off the dirt. She made this for me. And I hold up my feathers. When I was old enough to get my feathers, she went out with me and we picked them all. Then she sewed them to my shawl. And I pick one of the feathers off of the shawl and probably find a piece of string on my pants and rip it off. And I tie very gently, I wrap the feather I picked around this rock and I take the string and secure it. Maybe this can be a way that I remind myself that she's still with me. I can keep it in my pocket. Maybe Perry can help me make it into a necklace or something.
Harry's awful helpful.
I know you didn't really see eye to eye with my people. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know that I see eye to eye with them anymore, but they were trying and they were good.
Absolutely. Just because we don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that they're not good people.
So losing Silk is just like losing one more good person in the world. And I feel like right now we need more of them.
And you can continue to be the good person that she wants you to be.
So like I'll pick up the shawl from the ground and then put it back on. These get kind of cumbersome sometimes, if I'm being honest, but it is part of who I am.
Well, maybe when Perry helps you with the necklace, you can redesign that and make it less cumbersome. It'll be like a new you.
Even if the new me is a little sad right now?
Yeah, that's okay. I was scared when I shot the fire. But that didn't make me any less of a dragon or myself or just something new and scary.
Can I ask you a question? Can you be honest with me?
Yeah.
I've been unhelpful lately.
Have you?
Yeah. Harry's doing so much and creating a place for the eggs, and Cassandra seems to know exactly what to do, and Rathera's got a plan for everything, and I'm just kind of there.
Well, I don't think that's the case. It can't be a pod without you. I think that everybody has times that they're more, I don't like the word useful, more maybe present. That's okay. But that's why you work together, because everyone's there to support each other. Just like I'm supporting you right now.
I pet your head, one of your heads. I'm glad I have you, and I'm glad I have everyone in the pod. I feel like I was already on shaky ground, and then all this happened, and I'm not. I feel guilty that I'm having such a hard time.
You're changing. You're growing. Like I grew up from a little baby dragon. I know how to be still when we need to meditate now. That took practice.
Yeah, that's gotten a lot less fidgety,
Right.
which is, I know, very hard for you.
But it took practice and support from you. And constant ardor. Settle.
Maybe I should have taught you the stone trick too.
I can't really pick up stones.
I could have put one on each of your snoots.
I just couldn't move.
That's part of it. You have to be still.
I don't think I'd like that. But I would try.
No, I think you do it perfect the way that you do it. You do it Ardor's way.
And you do it Ulcha's way.
I don't know that everything's going to be okay, Ardor.
I hope it is. We make a pretty great team.
And I look over at Ardor, it's just, the best way to put it is just very sad eyes. But also, I mean, in Ulcha's mind, there's just a very dark place of, I don't know that we're going to, she doesn't feel like they're going to make it. Probably in more ways than one, but I know that you're going to be fine. No matter what.
I'm going to make sure that you're fine no matter what, because I'm not going anywhere without you.
Well, I don't want to keep them waiting. They're probably, it's getting dark.
They were just reading.
When we got back, I grabbed so many books that don't help us.
Well, how do you know? I'm learning to read. I can look through those books.
I mean, one was like a romance novel, I'm pretty sure.
Does it all have to be serious all the time?
It kind of feels like it, but maybe
Maybe we lost
had-
the fun. Maybe we need a good romance novel.
maybe we should try to come up with something we can do as a group that isn't doom and gloom.
The Tarbacks.
Maybe we could play a game that I grew up with.
What was that?
It's probably something a lot of people do, but I'd have to figure out a way to do it. You can just draw it in the swamp. You just throw rocks, honestly, and whoever throws the rock closest to the circle wins. And it gets quite competitive, you'd be surprised, but maybe that could be fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun to me. I can throw a really big rock.
Thank you for coming with me.
You wouldn't have been able to get here without me. I
True,
don't think you can fly.
not yet. I smile in a way that's like, it's a joke, but like, maybe someday.
Can you actually fly?
Growing up, we always, let's just say there's been a lot of attempts made with the owls and everything,
Flying.
We should go back though and
Play rocks.
yeah, it's called Stone's Throw. It's not a very creative name.
Stone's throw.
And I'll stand up and still clutching the rock that we found. It has a little bit of dirt still on it, but I'm going to show it to Ardor. I'm just going to open my palm and what do you think?
I think it's perfect.
Before I climb onto your back, I'm going to look over the view one more time. I'm going to pick one more feather from my shawl and hold it in the air. This is for you, Silka. I'm going to let the feather go.
When you let the feather go, it kind of drops from your hand and it kind of like twists and twirls down off the side of the hill. And then there's a slightly stronger than has been happening gust of wind that flies through, and the feather is picked and kind of like buffeted against the hill and starts to rise up into this like gust of wind and disappears from your vision up into the mountains.
I feel satisfied with that. So I definitely feel like it was my way of saying goodbye to Silka.
Yeah.
Silka's flying now.
She really is. She always said that she was excited for me to do this, like become a dragon rider, because I got to fly. I should have taken her out. We should have taken her out. At least once.
We'll take her with us now.
Then you just see like Ultra kind of start to lose it a little bit. So she's trying to pull, like rein it in. Let's take her now. And then kind of holds the rock to her heart and gets onto your back.
With as much help as possible. I'm just like trying to make it as effortless as possible for you.
Yeah.
As you take off and essentially I'm guessing you're heading back towards the swamp, towards where the eggs and the books and everything are. I very quickly want to touch on. I feel like for the most part, we have some idea of where some of the dragons, some of the riders are leaning. Does Ardor have a preference or something that she wants to do going forward, or is she kind of going with the flow?
She's going with the flow. But I think she's mostly just concerned about Ultra, so she hasn't really picked a direction because her focus has been like, okay, we're taking it day by day. And also, Ardor doesn't really think that far in the future. She's very just like, we'll deal with what's right in front of us, and that's all that we can deal with.
Okay. One other bit on that whole thing was she dismissed the idea of Ultra dying very quickly and abruptly. I'm assuming that was like, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not considering it, it's not a possibility, it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely does not exist in Ardor's head. There is never a day without Ultra in Ardor's head in the future.
Yeah. And Ultra, where is she at with the future and what to do next?
I think she feels a little bit better about having not done things in the way that she grew up doing, but being able to kind of talk about things more than just surface level.
Yeah.
She's still very hopeless. There's still just like a, for lack of a better allegory, but like what's creeping through this swamp is kind of creeping through her head. And so having Ardor's perspective is helpful because it is that like positivity, everything's going to be fine, which counteracts the really dark path that her brain is on.
Yeah.
As it's a lot of death and a lot of destruction and desolation in such a short amount of time. So there might be like a little spark, like in the darkness, of some hopefulness from talking to Ardor. And I think in the moment right now, she's just focused on, we're taking Silka flying right now. And
Yeah.
I think she's worried about what Ardor will do if something happens to her.
There is a lot of destructive power there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, after a while, you rejoin everyone else on the edge of the hill, closer to the swamp and everything. And everyone's there. You're working on things. Mostly, you guys have been reading, so you know, there's that. And yeah, essentially, what I will say, mostly for all of you as players, but also there's a feeling for both the dragon riders and for the dragons themselves that the time where you can essentially stay, let's call it stay neutral. I know it's not really staying neutral, but the time when you can linger here and everything will be fine feels like it's coming to a close. Like there's going to be a need to do something, otherwise everything's going to, as you've seen, things have already happened all over the place. Like essentially sooner or later it will be too late, I think is the best feeling I can give you there. So as we rejoin everyone in the in the, let's call it, home base, what's everyone doing? It is getting dark, so obviously you'll probably be getting some sleep at some point. I assume that some of the dragons at least will be doing the usual patrolling and super paranoid, like, who out there?
Well, briefly, Incensia has probably been sleeping through the day because we were out all night. Definitely someone else's turn. And yeah, because I've just been going through all of the information. Like, we need to have this organized and some sort of semblance of everything together.
Argent would absolutely be helping with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've determined Argent was alphabetizing everything so that you had an easier time sorting things because all the names were at least where you would think they'd be.
Mm-hmm. And like any key points that the others found. Not to say you wouldn't write down the information correctly or put it across, but you know, just details.
Making a codex.
Just need some details.
Have our own Dewey decimal
Yeah.
decimal system.
Dewey
thinking the same
Decibel.
thing. I was trying to think
The
of like,
loud library.
The opposite of what is good.
I was trying to think of like a dragon name for Dewey Decimal System.
That's Dewey Decibel, 100%.
Yeah.
Dewey decimal. Just a small tangent. They don't keep paper Dewey Decimal lookups anymore, do they? It's all digitized now.
I think some libraries still do if they're
Yeah.
old and rural.
Used to volunteer in a library. It was so fun to like go through the little Rolodex.
Little cardstock Rolodex of where every single book is. Yeah.
It's fun. They taught us how to look at those cards in school. They were like,
yeah.
this is
I
what
learned
this
how to-
means. This
Yep.
is what this means.
Yep.
Lost art chat.
I never did that, so.
Well, we learned in school for sure.
What's right there?
We weren't talking about libraries in the Dewey
We
Decimal
have-
System.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was probably like kind of got bored of reading books and like got up and decided to make everybody dinner and like noticed that everybody was keeping themselves busy. So like went to like oh, food is probably important, or like stoking the fire, or like uttering and just keeping herself busy and like maybe going back to a book for 20 minutes and then being like, my brain hurts. I don't like this. This is like, I know we need to know the information and I'm very curious. But
there are times when there's a difference between like motivation and concentration.
Yeah.
Rethera's motivated but doesn't have that kind of like, I can sit here and read words.
I can sit here and read words for a day. It's more like I need, because Rethera's just very like point blank, no fluff, right? So just give me the information I need. I don't need everything else. Let's go.
Okay. Well, with Ultra and Ardor returning, let us essentially, I think now is a good time to open the floor if you want to talk specifically with each other, dragons, riders, dragon riders, dragon riders, and etc. Or if you want to essentially, through research and looking through books, ask any like bits of more information or anything from me, things you can find out, like to help you make your decisions you're going to need to make and everything, and to essentially root through all of your characters' brains and see how they're feeling and where they're wanting to take this, because you know Ultra's right, like this is for all of the characters in different ways. Like there's been a big turnaround, like lots of things have changed and priorities have moved and shifted, and essentially for the last couple of months you've basically been trying to play keep up with everything that's happened and desperately tried not to have to make decisions that you don't want to make. So I would say, as you're reading the books about the history and about the primals and everything, for those of you who you think it would apply to your characters, your dragons, there'd probably be moments where you think, we need to do something.
I mean, Cassandra's just that passes by, but it's like there's all this to do first.
Yeah.
All this to...
Could I say maybe like there's times? Okay. How would people feel about this? After Ultra comes back and you're all reading and Rethera's pottering around and cleaning things up, cleaning things that have already been cleaned, essentially just moving them from one side of the cave to the other. There are moments for each of your characters where the thought of, I need to do this, or this needs to be sorted out, or we need to make a decision about this, happens throughout the night. And it's almost like a Cassandra like sits up and like opens her mouth to be like, okay, we need to talk, and is then like and gets back and starts reading, like looking for more information, looking for those type of things. So let's start off with, we'll start off with the riders, because they're the ones consuming the knowledge, they're the ones who'll have the easiest of access to it. Are there any further questions, any further thoughts, or just anything that you would like to ask of me as riders that you'd like to get more context on or delve deeper into?
I mean, it's interesting. I don't think it's necessarily like directly about our current problems, but it's almost like, as we're reading about the other things, we'll go to the interesting thing for a minute, have a break.
Sure.
And we discussed that thought that only Cassandra and Argent would probably have about the mages.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the interesting thing that I'd be looking at. Like, how do we do that more often? How do we learn about that thing?
Okay. So, well, I would say there's a decent enough archive. Like, magic isn't thoroughly covered for dragon riders, because mages don't become dragon riders, aside from one exception, which I think we all saw how that ended up. But the way magic works is that the user, the trigger is the person expending their potential life. It doesn't disappear. Essentially, when you're young, you have a lot of potential life ahead of you. You know, you're going to live until you die of old age, in theory. That is almost like a battery, and you can use all of that for magic. If you use all of it or the majority of it up, it'll tire you out. It'll tire you out for a certain amount of time. And because it is connected to the mage, because it is their life, and once they stop the spell, or once the spell is finished, it returns to them the energy, the ability. Then not any, but if you have the ability to adjust magic, to investigate, and to essentially mentally join with that magic and change it, you also have the ability to follow that path and invade the body and mind of someone who has instigated magic. Something you haven't noticed or realized so far, like dealing with dragon magic and with rider magic. However, because that is a similar style and a similar thing, theoretically it is possible that it would be doable with mages and doable with dragons and dragon riders. It is also possible that if you can start to discern the very latent life force of creatures, it's possible you could do it with anything that's alive. So that would be regular people as well, and other animals, and
Slightly terrifying. It's fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably not something I would say to everyone.
No.
Argent and you knew that. Argent
Yeah.
kind of learned and then just told you about it.
But I think like learning more rather than the feel, it's like, oh, well, we'll just hold on to them. You never know. That's interesting. I don't think that's a group conversation to have with Argent. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, just sort of, Cassandra's just digging through the stuff and not, but it.
That's something that she likes.
Cassandra's already sort of made her choice of what she wants to do.
Yeah. What does Cassandra want to do?
It's the view of we have to focus on the big things that people can't deal with and not get mired in like townships and
Petty squabbles
and like the monsters is terrible, but you know, this is awful. A town being wiped out by a basilisk is not as bad as half the world from like that entire town of people that were turned into trees. If that expands, that could be half the continent. So in big Cassandra's like big numbers.
the threat of the either reawakening or reinvigorated primals or
Yeah.
primordials, depending on
With
the
like
reference.
desolation, like the theory of desolation being a primal, if he can do all that, and that's one of them, and we don't know how many others there are, but we know there are at least two that are sort of being loosened and are a threat, and then a third one who's already like potting around the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cassandra's view is primals.
Question: is the thought deal with, or is the thought research, threat assess, then deal with? Because I asked this question because if desolation is one of the primals or is connected to primals in some way, there's a likelihood that all of them have that amount of power, which I imagine for all 8 of you probably aren't wanting to essentially go like, right, time to take down primals, guys. Let's
Well, it's sort of an assessment, but with a time frame. So, the one who's going around the ice, obviously that's not a threat if people aren't there, so just don't be there, right? That's already out. Can't deal with that.
as long as
the
it
one in
doesn't
this-
migrate.
Well, we found no evidence to that.
From the journals that you read, it appears to
Yes.
it
Well,
appears
it's
to be localized.
its priority is like keeping contained what was or like is still contained.
Yeah.
And then we'll worry about the next thing after that, because we can impact that and stop it from being a problem.
Yeah.
We can't face desolation. It's just not within our scope at all right now, is the important phrasing. So yeah, it's research, threat assess, but then we need to act on those things quite immediately. That's Cassandra's view.
Okay. I'm assuming Argent is of a similar mind to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, Argent is basically Cassandra is educated, knows well, and has taught Argent pretty much everything. So yeah, like, why would Argent want to go against this? This seems the most logical of choices.
Also, I would say Argent has always seemed the most disconnected from humans in a lot of ways. Maybe that's just part of Cassandra's upbringing. Like Cassandra bringing up Argent as a little baby dragon. But maybe it's also just the research and the, focusing on something more cerebral and higher, like, just didn't connect with other riders as much, and
Yeah, a lot more of a loner.
yeah.
Rather sit in and read a book kind of person than go out and get a drink.
So, would there be some form of preference for Argent? And this is just a question that it came to me right now, of like finding a tower on a mountain or hill somewhere, just filling it with books, and Cassandra and Argent just being like, we're just gonna while away our days reading and...
Oh, there was like a fairy tale at one point that was probably read about like a wizard tower and how they were just like a hermit out in the tower living their best life reading, and that's kind of like peak Argent life. The idea of flying around, getting books, and then coming back and then reading said books in tower and just being left alone to their own devices.
It was a children's story, but it was called Hermia
Oh,
the
yeah.
Hermit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Argent loved that idea. Doesn't see it very realistic, admittedly, but nonetheless loves the idea.
Okay. How about anyone else? Any questions you'd like answers to?
Maybe. Perry, there was one particular book that it was actually Argent read. I was double checking it about myths, and it stuck with Perry a lot because his thoughts are he's gonna have to go to his people one way or another.
Yeah.
Despite everyone being like, it's probably a bad idea. He's still in the it's worse if I don't, and lesser of two choices basically with the consequences. But the thing that stuck out to him specifically around myths and primals.
Okay.
Humans originally would get boons from them to stay safe and alive.
It has
They
been
worked with the primals. And Perry's thinking, well, if Desolation potentially is a primal, and the dragons were no use against them, and there are mages and dragons shoring up to basically take everything over, why not two birds, one stone? Get a primal to work with the people of Lowhold, become king of Lowhold, have greater protection to stay the fuck away from everybody else. And that's where Perry's brain is going.
Okay.
Well then.
Yeah. He's hoping everyone will join him, but he'll have to do it himself if they won't.
In teaming up with Desolation.
No, not Desolation. Other primals.
Okay, I was like, wait a second.
No. Like, the others that are getting loose, if you can
Right.
usually, the idea of a boon is you make a deal with them. And
Right.
so you might be able to stop them from expanding heavily because they're just sort of like an element. If they work with you, it might help them help you, kind of like the dragon melding idea. They get something, you get something, and both survive rather than suppressing one, hoping it never comes back.
Okay.
Because it seems like you can't kill them. Why not work with them like you did with dragons?
Okay.
Be interested to see Tourmaline's thoughts on that as we go. But
Yeah.
Tourmaline's just like, okay, Perry, let's do this.
Yeah, Perry's been doing like a ridiculous amount of pacing. As
Has
he
Perry
does.
shared it or not? Not yet.
No, he's not said anything out loud at the moment. He is literally just kind of going back and forth over and over again, looking very in thought and probably mumbling to himself here and there.
I mean, I feel like Tourmaline's sitting there just watching you, lazy sitting, watching you just kind of pace back and forth and following you. And let's make sure I have the right dragon effect on. Okay. I feel like probably at the 100th pace.
Perry,
Hmm?
what are you thinking about?
What we're gonna do after this now. Like what we need to do. And what I gotta do.
Are you okay?
No, definitely not. But that's okay.
What if you tried sitting for a minute?
Sitting would be bad. Probably bad. Maybe. Would it be bad? Probably not.
And he sits.
Sometimes interrupting your flow helps you think a little clearer sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there anything I can help you with?
Would it be bad if I became a king?
I think it depends on why you want to become a king.
To help my people? To help dragon riders and dragons?
That seems like a noble reason. If you had said, because I want power and to destroy nations, I would have said, that's probably not a good idea.
That would be a correct response, yes. No, I don't want that.
Why do you need to become the king, though?
Because otherwise my people will get subjugated entirely and basically be just used as smiths barely hired for wars.
Do you believe that you can save them?
Maybe. Don't know
Maybe
for
it's
certain.
better. Maybe is more certain than no.
That's what I was thinking. Because otherwise it's a no. I kind of think I have to try.
I support you, Perry.
Thanks, Dorman. I kind of figured you did, but it's good to hear.
I would not have supported you if you had the wrong reasons.
I also appreciate that. I don't think anyone else is going to, though.
This group is logical. I feel they should understand why.
Yeah. What do you what do you think would happen if we went to talk to a primal instead of trying to stop it?
I think that is an interesting idea. We always fly in all honesty, with the idea of protection and destruction. That is a new path we have yet to go down.
Humans used to, if we believe the books.
I believe that is a valiant effort to try to fix things differently than we did before.
It's kind of the point, right? Nothing worked the way it was. Try something new. If
Looking around now, it does appear that what was done before was easily undone, so perhaps it was holding on by a thread to begin with. Worst case, we speak to a primal. They do not respond favorably. And then we do what we normally do.
Yeah. Kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Would you like to go talk to a primal?
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely want to try.
Are there any around right now?
Well, I mean, there's the weird wind snow one, but I don't know if that can even be talked to. But there is apparently the one in, oh God, what was that place? The Deep Roots. There was the one there, and that one seemed to, well, at least from what Cassandra and Arjun was saying, it maybe was not evil. Just then there was the one in the swamp here, but that one does seem to kind of corrupt. But
Are primals magical?
yeah, they're I think there's like more or less an embodiment of magic in nature and things or whatnot.
I'm gonna stand up and you just hear like smacking of feet on the ground. And because there's the one in the swamp, Tourmaline's just gonna start smelling the air. And I'd like to, can I do a magical sense just to see if I can get any more information about the primal that's here?
Sure.
I can help with control if need be too.
Yeah, I'd say, give me your resolve and any possible tags that may go along with that. You know what? In this instance, actually, I'm gonna say power instead of resolve. It makes more sense.
Okay. And I have the magically gifted tag.
Magically gifted. I would say magically gifted is the one that makes the most sense, yeah. So that's on 5s, you get 3.
Okay.
So, you know how when a smell is introduced to an environment, you maybe smell it a little bit and you're like, oh, this kind of smells of something. But when it permeates the entire place, it essentially, you stop noticing it and it just becomes part, like your brain kind of like tunes it out. It's a little bit like that. You focus and you smell the smell, but the smell of, it's hard to call it magic. That would kind of be the difference between like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here, really. This feels much more like kind of just raw nature. And magic very often is wielded and implemented by dragons or people or whoever who take that power and kind of turn it into their own desires or their own designs, which means that you're partially smelling the distillation of that, of that power.
Do I get if it's evil, neutral, or not evil? I don't know what the other. I can't think of the word. Good.
Benevolent?
Benevolent. Yeah.
It's hard to say because evil, even to a dragon, evil, good, and neutral even are difficult concepts. It's easier for all of you as dragons because you were raised by humans. Humans have the concept of good and evil. You know, you can do good, you can do bad, you can, you know, do everything in between. It's hard to quantify something like this as good or evil because intent is important there. What you are dealing with is pure nature. And nature is one of the cruelest things in existence. And there's nothing fair or good or evil about it. It just is.
I cannot get a good sense of the one that is here. It feels natural. I do not sense much magic with it.
So maybe potentially, I guess. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Oh, I cannot tell if it's evil or bad.
Yeah.
I can give you this with your successes. There's no intent to dominate, to conquer, to become more than it already is. It's just essentially the best I could say is there's an intent to be.
Mm-hmm.
What you're seeing around you, the corruption, let's call it, is essentially the effect of such power, probably returning it to the state it was originally in when this being, this lurker, was originally here before it was sealed away. Essentially meaning that since it's been sealed, the swamp has shrunk. The beings in the swamp, the animals, the trees, everything have gotten smaller. They've gotten less vital and powerful. It has allowed for expansion, probably for the humans, for that type of thing. But at the same time, there's no intent to kill, crush, destroy. Basically, is what I'm saying. There's an intent to go back to where it was.
It's neutral. It's just nature, basically.
It's just nature.
It's just existing as it once was. I think it's one of those things where if you water a plant, it will grow. If you do not water it, it will die. It might be reasoned with.
That actually could work then. If it just wants to be what it is and not expand, that could really work.
I get a sense that it was stifled and snuffed out.
Because people didn't understand.
Yes.
And since it was never able to actually be killed by even the strongest of people, that's a pretty good ally.
Instead, it was put in a cage.
Yeah. Yeah. That could work.
I think your hunch might be doable, Harry.
I think so too. That's a good direction. Even if they don't agree with the whole protecting the whole thing together, that could still work for us.
Tourmaline, could you take another tag, please?
Yes.
It is magically empathic.
Ooh. Should I add it as like in addition to magically gifted?
It's different.
Ooh.
Magically gifted allows you to sense magic.
Okay.
Magically empathic allows you to get a taste of the emotion or the feeling of the magic.
That's so Got it.
It's something you've been noticing more and more, and with this one, you know, it's still not always going to be possible, but you've tapped into something there.
Are you going to tell the others, Perry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course I will. I'm not gonna keep that sort of thing. They would definitely think, like, oh, well, now he's just gonna go be king to get all this power and, you know, be a tyrant and all that, and he's making deals with these ridiculous, you know, beings of nature and whatnot. That'd probably be bad to do secretly, because, yeah.
Can I be your security guard?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say friend, but yeah, that too.
Well, I could be your friend and security guard.
Yeah.
Should we build in some sort of agreement that if you do become a tyrant, I fly you away somewhere?
Sure. That sounds good.
Okay.
Checks and balances or something like that. I think I read that once. Maybe because
If I become too power hungry in my security guard role, please check me as well.
Okay. Yeah, I don't worry about that, but yeah.
I slowly walk over to you.
Yeah,
Sit
just
down.
saunter.
No
Yeah,
immediately, just like
Definitely
Very-
see power going to Tourmaline's head.
Sorry, mate. If you don't have your ID, you're not getting in.
I'm the worst bouncer.
Oh, no, wait, I've seen you before. Yeah, I guess that's probably fine.
Yeah, you're probably fine.
I mean, I feel like Ardor would probably be the worst bouncer because it would be like, you've got food? Come on in.
Yeah. Bribes easily accepted by Ardor.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's Perry's thoughts. He will, after you are working with everybody, will eventually go to the group and inform them of his plan.
In that case, what I was going to have is that everyone today would fall asleep without actually airing any of the thoughts or anything. But it sounds like we've got at least one. I guess in that case, the only last person to talk to is Rithera. I feel like we kind of know her plans and her thoughts anyway, but it's always good to touch on these things.
Yeah. She was listening to the books, like a lot about the primals and a lot of that sort of stuff and like what to do, how to protect people. And feels a little lost as to like which one is the biggest threat. And so I think that's a lot of like in her brain. She's like, I feel like I don't know which one is the first one to deal with. Is there one that we deal with that then like cascades through? Or and then a lot of it was like, okay, but how do we continue to grow dragons and dragon riders? And like, what do we do with the eggs? And what do we do? And so I think that like her mind feels very divided of like, we need to deal with this threat, but if we don't get on this now and get people start training and find the riders for these eggs and find out how to continue to get eggs without like growing the same thing that we were growing before. And then she starts spiraling again. So it's like, now we know where the eggs come from. We know that they come from a volcano. So it's like, maybe I'll go on an adventure to find those, but.
Yeah. And she wants to deal with the present problems, but all of the present problems rely on planning the future.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's all very well and good to say like, hey, let's go and talk to a primal, but what about a place of safety that you can retreat to, that you can hide the eggs? Extra eggs for if you want to regrow the dragon riders, or even if you don't, if you want to form a monster fighting society, for example.
Which is more, I think, on her head, is like, maybe not dragon riders in the same sense, but like definitely like protection getting like, with the primals coming up and then that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. So you probably notice it in her physical puttering. Like, because you probably know she's on like one task, which is like where her brain is for one, and then she switches to another task, which is where her brain is on the other, and she's just cycling
Yeah.
probably like around the campfire at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if she's set on anything yet though, because I don't think she feels like she has enough information of what to do with the eggs
Could
and finding writers.
Could I get a roll, please, of resolve on Rothera's part?
Okay,
And-
I've got deeper meld if that has an impact.
And yes, a resolve also on Incensia's part. If any tags apply, this is essentially your connection.
Meld.
Deeper meld would apply.
Okay.
All right. I'm thinking now.
I got one.
Could we actually go with control for Rothera? That makes more sense in this instance.
Okay. Thank goodness I can re-roll that roll because that was well bad. Well, that's much better. That's 3 successes.
3 successes. Okay. In that case, you are able to keep a lid on the kind of tumultuous emotions. It doesn't wake Incensia up. Again, as especially more recently, since everything has happened, you have all noticed the bond between you getting deeper. There is more often a breach of emotions and of thoughts between you. You're not able to communicate. You're not able to communicate telepathy or anything like that. But even at a distance from each other, you'd be able to feel fear, anger, sadness, these type of things, as essentially like an alien emotion that would just kind of penetrate through your body. And what that essentially means is, even far away from each other, you would be able to tell if your let's call them the significant other is in danger, or your partner is in danger, or angry or sad or something. At this point, I'd say I think everyone has the deeper meld tag. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Nope.
I thought only these two did.
Oh no, sorry. Argent does have deeper meld.
Yeah, I think it's Perry and Tourmaline who don't.
Correct.
I don't think Ardor and
I'm
Ulcha?
checking right now.
Yeah.
I don't think we do.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Uh-uh.
I have Besto Writer,
That-
Rudimentary Reader.
That was supposed to happen when you had the lightning fire. The firebolt of fire should have gone to deeper meld as well.
Okay.
So apologies, Ardor and Ultra, please do take the deeper meld, and Perry and Tourmaline as well. The one thing that this will start to highlight is the closer you get, the more... the best way to describe it, the more worrying the thought of losing a dragon or a rider would be for you. The bond is such that, like, I would say, to compare, like, it was a very kind of like soulful loss to lose, for example, Crix, or for example, Silka. That is something you kind of feel in your gut. Losing a rider or losing a dragon when you're a dragon or a dragon rider more and more feels like tearing your soul in half kind of thing. And one thing I will say is that you have very few examples of a dragon and rider dying separately in all of your texts and books. Invariably, if the dragon falls or if the rider falls, so does the other. Possibly by choice. So, with that cheery thought, Apologies. I'm just trying to make it as modern as possible apparently today. In that case, what I will say is the next thing that you probably hear, as everyone's being quite quiet, would be Perry walking over and basically, would you like me to lay out, to say you've essentially lay out your thoughts? Because you've kind of already, everyone knows what Perry's thinking. So you can essentially say, hey guys, and then just tell them what you want to do and...
Sure. Yeah. Basically, Perry kind of comes up and gives you the short and skinny of like not as much rambling, but just like, hey, yeah. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go be king, but there's that book about primals. People made pacts with them, and the one here isn't evil. Tourmaline can prove that. It's just is. I think we could work with it.
There's a lot to unpack there, Perry.
I've been
there was
thinking on it for a while.
2 separate things.
But not really.
But really, if you're thinking quite narrowly of yourself and Lowhold,
But no. Y'all been talking about we need a central place to work out of. Lowhold could be that, or somewhere near it.
I
We can
like
get a
the idea of
primal.
near, not
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, near, whatever the case. Like, it'd still be under some protection of some kind as a result. But we can get a primal or more to give pacts or a boon like they used to, instead of just trying to ensnare it, when in reality it's just closer to nature and a natural existence, which just wants to be rather than be afraid, like feared. It might actually be willing, if we're willing to like work with it, kind of like a dragon pact, you know? And then that's extra essential protection and more of a stake in neutrality than trying to do what has always been done and hasn't worked.
I like that idea.
I see your point about working with them as a boon and protection, but why would it need to be Lowhold? Could we not?
Do you have any connections to anywhere else that won't try to
Well,
recruit?
you know that I do.
Well, I mean, that won't try to conscript you and not let you do anything.
Well, have we considered Harrowhold once more? We reclaim it. It is ours as Dragon Riders. And if we were to make an agreement with a primal, then what's to say we couldn't have them protect Harrowhold?
Do you think Desolation would just let Harrowhold go back up?
That's
Really?
my thought.
I think that's...
If we try to reestablish it the way it was, or even if it looks like it, it's gonna fail. By our own means, or more likely, outer means. Cargilia won't let that stand. If we take it from them, that is a declaration of war. Which you said allying with Harrowhold would be, but that's way more so.
Well, it would be encouraging them to leave, is how I would
That's
frame that.
declaration of war, Cass. If you kick them out of a place they've decided to claim after they already kicked out other cities, that's war. That's not subtle.
I think we have to start new. We have to do things different this time. Or it's just going to be a repeat.
Which is where I agree with Perry on approaching the primals and not locking them up. It is a different approach. Now, if it doesn't work,
Right.
it's been done before. We know we can do it again. But
It was it was a bandage over a gaping wound.
yes, it seems to be, or what we thought was a success is not.
Yep.
And now that does leave the primal more neutral overall as well, because who's to say that other cities or people cannot go negotiate such same pacts with the primals, but we're choosing to not get involved in politics, so that's really not the issue.
It would still be a protection for us. If it protects others, it's not going to protect others from itself, right?
Right. And it's not going to be getting in and used as a force against others.
Since
We're
it
not
just
in
wants to-
control.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are speculating for another being. So we don't quite know how they're going to react, even though, as you said, Tourmaline did say they were neutral. I think that's a great place to start. I am nervous about putting alliances or being close to any city at this point. I'm going to be honest, if as we've said, Desolation decides not to agree with what we're doing, we are putting others in danger if we are close to them.
Well, true. That's already happened to Cargilia at that point. We'd be no worse off than them. I don't disagree. Just making a note that's already happened. And so far, nothing is happening to them because it's different. That was kind of their point. They blew everything up because they didn't like how it was being done. If it's done differently, it might be safer, weirdly enough.
Maybe that was the whole point of it all. We start over and we build something better.
What does that mean? What do we want to do? Do we want to just exist? What
No.
is the goal here?
Protect people, I think, right?
My goal.
That was the original goal for Dragon Riders, was it not?
True.
So if
It's just
we-
the way they did it. It's basically they were the government. They were ruling over people, whether or not that was intended or
Like a king
done.
on a mountain.
Somewhat, yes. But just more trying to police literally everyone.
I'm fairly certain, in fact, that the Dragon Riders helped bring down a kingdom. Perry.
An empire, yes, that was ruling over everyone instead of its own city.
But it remains that it was a kingdom
Like Cargilia.
that, and it's, I'm pointing out the similarities.
Yeah. Not disagreeing,
Who's
but
to say they didn't start out with similar morals and hopes and goals?
Maybe it's not or shouldn't be about protecting people anymore. Maybe now it's about making a better world so that there's less people that need to be protected.
fair. I think that was somewhat of the goal, admittedly, of the Dragon Riders, regardless. Which I don't think is a bad one.
We became the law. We would fly around and deal with problems. And a lot of times the way we did that was by just going in with fire,
Compared
not
to
asking
being-
questions.
Yeah, compared to getting requests for help and then helping.
Maybe we were the problem.
I think it was a little more complicated than that, but
The power dynamic alone. Someone rides in on a dragon, you have no chance to say anything or stick up for yourself or have any say in the matter besides what they want to do.
yep.
I think we're kings in our own way already.
That's what's happening to Lowhold. That's what's happened to Sunswept. That's what happened to Garrick. That's basically what happened to Tarlian and Liberalia already. They're trying to stay out of it, but they already got kicked out of Harrowhold. That's happening now.
So
Everybody's afraid, so they're just lashing out and fighting with each other.
Yeah. And that's
But-
why I can't do nothing.
right. But the question is if we went to, let's say, a request for help situation, the request for help is going to become political. There is no way to avoid that of requests for kingdoms asking for help on other kingdoms.
Then that would be something you'd say no to. If there is a natural issue, Dragon Riders can help. If it's a political one, they stay away from it because it affects the balance too much.
I agree on this. That is what I would envision if we were to focus on nature and monsters and unavoidable cataclysms like earthquakes and such, but not to beleaguer my point, it's having a home base of a city or a town is a political stand, whether you mean it so or not. So we can never be truly neutral if we are in any city.
True. But the unfortunate part there is, where are you going to keep the eggs?
Well, we need to make another vault.
Which kind of involves building a city of itself, and then that, again, bumps into the exact issue that Cass brought up. It's just Harrowhold 2.0 at that point.
Not if it was secret or if we returned them to Nyan's Fall.
Are they safe there, though, at this point?
I don't think
I mean,
so.
there are more than likely others there, as is, so are all of those safe? Who's
That's
to
what I mean.
decide?
I don't think they are.
I
That
don't
was
think
the
they
whole
are.
point of the master. He told us where they were, not for them to sit there, I don't think. To protect them.
What if we brought them back to that island?
Nyan's Fall, yes.
Where we met desolation.
Certainly one way to protect them.
Putting them in the hands of desolation.
No, because as I said, there are more than likely already many eggs there, as is
Right.
part of the agreement with the dragons of the past. I suppose if the eggs are protected by a primal that we have an agreement with, that does not have to be in a city. No offense, Perry, but what is
No,
Lowhold
no.
going to do if someone with a dragon turns up? If they can get through a primal, then they can get through a city's defenses easily enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing for everything, admittedly.
So if it were somewhere hidden and safe and protected by primal, the only ones to know about it would be us.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that's a very good idea.
There
I
are-
wasn't even wanting necessarily to say the egg should be in Lowhold. I think that is too... And I think that's not wise.
There are options. There is obviously the lurker in the swamp, which not sure that I'm on that one, but perhaps the deep roots or even outbreak mounds have dragon riders there.
Do the eggs need? Do they need the heat of the mountain and the volcano?
I don't think so. I think they just exist.
They
And then
see
they-
anything about that?
Yeah, and you know enough about the eggs and reading and etc. Dragon eggs are stone. Essentially, they don't really need anything, aside from to be kept in safety.
Mhm.
But they don't really have control over, where they go or what they do until they hatch. Aside from that, you know that there are dragon eggs that have been essentially dormant for years, until they've hatched for a rider. So
Obviously, I would have shared. Yeah.
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 So, yeah, I mean, it
So
could.
then we have to figure out which primal we're willing to work with. before we can figure out where the eggs can go.
As just a note, wasn't when I was out patrolling, I did note and find, at least in the deep roots, there were people frozen. It was kind of nightmarish, and I don't know if that primal is super willing to talk, at least right off the bat, if it's willing to do that to the people around it. As weird as it is, the lurker doesn't feel great here, but it also hasn't done anything. It's just kind of spread what it's doing.
But it's just waking up.
Yeah. But Tourmaline felt it just wants to exist. That's it. It's going back to its natural state, and it just wants to be. And it couldn't be killed. We found that out, too.
True.
Why? Why did we lock them up in the first place? Was it
Probably.
land protection of other people? Not having to deal with them?
Probably. That sounds about right.
Like, if we think of these primals as beings, old dragon riders banished them, basically.
Yeah. For human expansion, more than likely. Swamp used to be bigger, is what it seems like.
They receded as humanity expanded and grew, but the actual reason, perhaps it was the boons that they were bestowing on people. It's not a small thing to be the only mage in the world, be able to have an impact on everything. And the brothers who 7 brothers, the 7 brothers who had such an impact over time, then if everyone can ask for a boon and become mages, then that's never anyway. The main issue with the lurker is that plenty of people do know that we are here or have been around here. Do we want that to be known?
Well, if we are being a place of people can come and ask for our help, yes, we have to be known.
Perhaps we could reintroduce signal fires?
I was thinking more outposts, maybe, in specific locations that...
Then we have to man them if we were somewhere central. And
Central to what? Central to who?
to at least not Harrowhold, but if we were... we can patrol, I suppose, if that's easier, and check the outposts.
Could also leave the eggs with, if we find a way, let's say, it doesn't have to be, let's say it's the lurker. And we are able to leave the eggs here. Does not mean we have to stay here. We've got to being stronger than any dragon rider protecting them.
I'm not disagreeing about the lurker entirety. I'm just pointing out that...
Oh, yeah. If even people know it's here, doesn't matter. They can't deal with it. We can be elsewhere. And that would also draw attention away from it. They would see a giant nightmare beast in their mind and avoid it, because any research they've done tells them it can't be killed. And it was an ancient seal they don't know how to do.
We just have to be cautious.
Oh, yeah.
That the lurker does not then give the eggs to someone else with a boon.
True. It'd have to be in some sort of, I don't know, weird contracty thing or something.
Can a lurker agree with a contract?
Well, I have no idea.
If they have enough sentience to grant boons and protect eggs,
right.
then one would hope.
I would hope so, too.
I feel like we're banking on that. This lurker has a lot of sense, which we don't know. So
We don't.
Yes. Perhaps we should have the conversation initially and...
Let's see. Oh, yeah. No promises first.
And with the primal in the deep roots, perhaps the horrors that it uses to protect its area.
Could have been a
would only be
reaction.
Benefits.
True. Could have just been a reaction and not an aggression.
I mean, something that turns people into trees, I feel like people are not going to approach. Versus a swamp.
We don't know what
So-
its protections are. Still,
I
the
think-
conversation.
Before we move forward, we have to have the conversation. Before we realize we need to either deal with this or not deal with this, whether we can make a pact with it or not. Those are big factors. And I don't think we can really plan past that. It's all speculation at this point,
Uh-huh.
of one way or the other.
Okay. Shall we go visit the lurker now?
Well, it's nighttime. So tomorrow,
Could rest, but it's here. It's easy enough, I suppose.
I don't think anything's going to change between tonight and tomorrow.
One can hope.
Hope.
There's also the fact that the lurker is still sealed and is
Well-
slowly.
Yeah, Cassandra's thoughts are like Tomlin had a connection to find it initially, and then Argent had a connection to like strengthen the seal. So I'm sure that there is a way that we can communicate. That's the thought anyway.
Yeah. There can be some attempts, I would imagine.
I mean, if everyone's saying like, yeah, it didn't. Cassandra's had a nose in a book. She doesn't even know what time it is.
yeah. It's dark out, Cassandra.
Oh,
There's dinner and staying warm by the fire.
perhaps it can wait until the morning.
Ulcha's already eating.
Yes. Okay, and I will research on how to actually communicate rather than prodding a tree, I suppose.
Okay.
All right.
Barry gets ready and gets himself to go to bed.
In that case, as everyone prepares to bed, and a few people probably to patrol and stay guard, etc. My questions. There seems to be a little bit more research going on. Is there anything else that would like to be known before everyone like lays down and sleeps?
I think I probably will look into the lurker a little bit more. Like, what are its almost defense? How useful would it be, and like how are there any instances of it being asked for boons in the past, like specifically? And then if not, if I have time, because I'm aware I have to sleep at some point, then more about the one in the deep roots, because I'm aware we flew very high and had a massive distance. We were very wary of getting close to it for good reason, which is a great plus mark on the protection.
The information on the primals is some of it is myths,
Yeah.
some of it is kind of old texts. There's a couple of there's like Master Rowlet's Rowley's encounter with the snow
Mm-hmm.
thing. And there is the communication with a Master Belote, where some wild dragons came from a fair way away, and essentially warned them, the riders, that the lurker was reawakening. There's no real strong information about any interaction with the lurker aside from the expedition that got lost. They went into the swamp and nearly all of them didn't come back out.
Mm-hmm.
The Deep Roots is a place that has always been avoided. As the deeper you go in, the less likely it is to come out. There's always been a little bit of I can't remember the word, where you like superstition about Neone's rock, even before the formation of the Dragon Riders and everything there, even before Neone, as it was a charred, blackened mess basically. And then in the Outbreak Mounds, again, sometimes people go in and don't come back. But the details with all of these things is essentially they are in fairly extreme climates. It's not somewhere people go regularly by choice. And but there's no real information about the people who have gone out there and how they have communicated or how the communication went or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a. Oh, sorry.
Not
I was
much
gonna say
else,
it's
I'm
not
afraid.
super useful for Cass, but it's fine.
I had a question.
Yes.
How was there any books or anything that mentioned how you pick new like how dragon riders get picked, like I don't know, like a handbook or something that talks about how eggs choose their riders, like what process, so we can start thinking if we do keep the eggs, how do we do that?
There is there are theories, and there's been a little bit of research. One of the reasons why the Dragon Riders are called in, like 1,000 or an over when there's only 44 eggs, for example, is because you need. The theory is that you need a match between the rider and the dragon, and the same way every person is different, every dragon is different. The more people who present themselves to the egg, the more likelihood of that match being close enough for the dragon to decide to hatch. From everything that can be told, essentially the dragon is dormant and essentially wakes up when they find someone who's a close enough match. It's not necessarily perfect, but someone who will aid in their upbringing and survival.
So there could be multiple choices for one egg.
There could be, but
Okay.
seeing as once the egg hatches, it's hatched, there's no way to tell if, multiple people, it's theorized multiple people
Yeah.
could. Because it wouldn't really make sense from a species survival note, or an evolutionary note, to only be able to hatch for one person. What if that person dies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I would just relay the information to everybody about the eggs that I found, and that the eggs are intuitive enough that, if I'm understanding this correctly, it feels like if someone was selected to be a dragon rider, it was almost kind of like correct me if I'm wrong, like a BS, you were elite enough in our community to be chosen.
Maybe. I would say it is also a, how well they meld, I guess is the word, but how well they suit the dragon that's going to hatch for them.
Yeah, no, like I get that with the egg, but I mean like the people who got chosen to even go and like get to go through the cave.
I mean, the fact that someone from a fairly prestigious family, the strongest from tribes and from peoples, were picked inclines that, you know, there was a certain political pleasing everyone, and maybe also, hey, it'd be useful if we have powerful people as dragon riders.
Mhm. I think I would relay that in my opinion on it, which is just that it's interesting that the people who are selected had more sway than, say, like an average Joe kind of thing, and just kind of talk about how if we did ever want to make more dragon riders, that it doesn't necessarily need to be someone in power. It could be like someone who has a regular job who works down the street, and they could be, I mean, in Ulja's opinion, could be just as powerful as somebody who comes from a very well-off family. Because, I mean, in a way, Ulja's kind of a Nepo baby, if you really think about it. So I don't want, you know, she's kind of taking into perspective that we do need to do things differently. And maybe if we want to create a new generation of dragon riders, we have a little more balance to that.
Yeah. How's everyone feel about that? Cassandra?
Cassandra's kind of on board with that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense that only certain people would. Her issue is, like, there have to be some checks, obviously, but we would have to be careful to not gatekeep it, I guess. Not just pick, you know, what if another Jarex came along? Would you accept him because he's in the opposing clan?
Question, does Cassandra raise that to Ultra? Because
yeah. I'm
okay.
like, well, who's to, like, we don't agree with everyone. Would you have allowed Jarex to initially?
No. And I mean, that's where I'm trying to learn from my bias now, that clearly I read him wrong. And that kind of gave me a new perspective on it anyway. He was much different than I thought he would be. So I think I do agree we need to make sure we don't just get the sociopath from down the street, but I think there's more room for maybe some different perspectives and different people.
I think we have to be cautious. And I think being cautious means being more open-minded, but that we are not giving or allowing power to somebody who will use it to harm others, or control.
As we were tested by the masters, there could be something in place to test how people would react before we even gave them access to the dragon eggs for hatching. What that exactly would be is another question, but if there are a series of tests to see, I don't know, would one kick a puppy? Then
Philosophical questions.
there's, you not actually want them to kick a puppy, but
Well, no, I know, but like,
those tests to see how they would act.
Here's an additional thought. What if the dragon was so inclined to kick a puppy, for example?
I was just going to ask that. Do dragons sometimes have an inherent, for lack of a better word, evil in them that they could sense somebody with an equal amount of that, and like a bad egg, essentially?
One of the jobs of the dragon riders was to cull or deal with certain dragon riders who went on a more grey or dark moral path. I believe you saw two of the dragon masters fighting, which I'm pretty sure was...
Yeah, we did.
It was Josere and I think Rainier.
One of them was a yellow dragon. So
Yeah.
or pink, whichever one makes the armor and weapons.
One of them was pink. I think that was.
I think the other one was yellow then. Wasn't it yellow and pink?
Don't think any of the Masters dragons were yellow.
Fair enough.
I think
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, all I could say is, if you remember, Josere was covered with scars, and as the it was gold. That was it. It was a pink wyvern and a gold dragon. Or a gold wyvern, I think. Galeriat was the gold wyvern. That's right. And both Josere and Galeriat were covered in scars because, due to their nature of ability in combat and things like that, they were specifically a master who hunted down stray renegade dragons and dragon riders, and essentially dealt justice. Inverted commas, dealt justice. So, it is very possible for a dragon or dragon rider, or both, to go down more complicated paths, let's call it, where they aspire to rule, or aspire to dominate and conquer. And that's one of the massive dangers of being a dragon rider, is all of that power, the willingness to, execute said power.
There's not really a way to get a good idea of that, because it sounds like they were dealing with it after the fact a lot of the time, like not beforehand.
I mean, there's no way to tell. At least in all of the books and research, there's no way to tell how people or dragons are going to turn out.
And like people could change after having access to that amount of power, isn't it? So
side eye at Perry. One of the
Is that?
Oh, sorry, you go first.
I think Rithera would have a question for the group.
Yeah.
And it would that be something Tourmaline can sense?
Is it something? I know Tourmaline is the magically gifted, and I know there's some magic to this.
The magic empathy, specifically.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, could I use that to sense in someone if they are corrupt or have like a darker cloud in them?
You can sense emotions. You can't sense people's intentions or their souls.
However, when you think about emotions, if there is like an energy of there's a difference between nervousness and agitation, like that kind of things. Like, could she sense some of that, the more negative leaning emotions that don't fit the situation?
Like a lie detector. So you're asking a bunch of standard questions and seeing how their emotions react to them. Compared to their words.
It's definitely possible. I would say the problem you'll come up with is you're judging what is essentially someone who hasn't formed into who they're going to be. So there may be occasions when you can weed out someone who, has had a really rough childhood and is just, to some degree psychopathic. But in general, people don't become corrupt until the chance for corruption arises. So you can't tell if someone's going to become a dictator until they have the ability to, they have the opportunity to take power and to, become... invariably, one thing you could do is you could institute some form of qualification, essentially put them through trials.
Yeah, Cassandra's thought is having a boot camp for people to come and train and stuff, but it could be we teach people how to protect themselves as well, so we're not having to deal with the monster. And the test can be part of the process.
But,
and
well,
go on.
So the two things I'm going to bring up, because they've been touched on, one of which is that one of the reasons the Dragon Riders were so against any Dragon Riders taking land, power, there's a lot that was wrong with the Dragon Riders and the organization that they were. They were essentially limiting the freedom of everyone around them. You know, you can't go to war, you can't fight each other. If you do, they're basically like giant nuclear weapons, a deterrent to do anything. Or, you know, just kind of keeping people to some degree oppressed, unfortunately. And just how it, you know, it's one of those things of, you know, do you allow people to do the things that harm themselves? Because that's kind of in people's natures. Or do you, you know, lay down the law and say you can't do any of this stuff? It's all off limits. It is what it is. One of the reasons they were so against any Dragon Riders taking power, you know, becoming a king, becoming a leader, is not necessarily because they're extremely powerful, and that power can corrupt. It's if they become corrupt, one of the things that equalizes all dictators is death. You know, if you have a dictator for 100 years, you know, if he lives to, if you have a dictator for 60 years, that dictator will still die, and things will move on. If you have a Dragon Rider, well, the oldest Dragon Rider in Harrowhold was 250 years old, and there's never been a recorded natural death of old age for a Dragon Rider in the histories. So when you have a dictator who's possibly immortal, then you have a dictator for as long as they can hold on to power, which is a lot more dangerous. Additionally, I'll say, going off the idea of boot camp and etc., the only thought that would possibly occur to some of you, feel free to pick this up if you like, because I feel like it would occur to some of the people involved around this conversation. If you're going to set up a boot camp and training and all of these things, where are you going to find the time to protect Lowhold, or to patrol, or to do all of these other things that you want to, and in some cases feel you need to do? I mean, like, setting up the resurgence of Dragon Riders is a very good idea, but it's going to require isolation, time commitment, the training of new riders, and, you know, kind of molding it into what you want it to be, and that'll take time.
I feel like Cass thinks if we can, if certain things are going to escape and we know the scope of like how far these primal will go and it's just nature, then that is just what it is.
Yeah.
It is like a longer term goal for boot camp.
Yeah.
Like, if we want to grow, there are Dragon Riders around that we haven't spoken to, that like maybe they don't know what to do, so they've reacted and not made the best choices. But if we give them a choice of, we can do these things and be better than we were before, you don't have to go marauding, you don't have to, yeah, like, I mean, the folks on the fringes, they're quite happy, but there are potential dragons in the desert lands, so
There are, or have been seen dragons up by the, what did I call them? The pocked area?
Outbreak Mounds.
Outbreak Mounds, there we go.
Yeah, I think we had each other. A lot of other people didn't have anyone.
A lot
Would
of
be Cassandra's
odds.
point of like, it will take time, it will take effort, but even if we don't succeed in finding the right people to like test against the eggs, like grow our ranks, we're helping people generally to protect themselves without, and it's not like closed to any group. But yeah, like it would take our time, and we would have to find the way to balance that.
And at that point, we can work on dividing and conquering, right? Like we can work on like maybe if Tourmaline consents this stuff, we train a group and then there's a final thing where we just need Harry and Tourmaline for a day. And like that, and then maybe the people that are on the fringes more so we can talk to them and be like, hey, we've done research on this, this, and this. How do you feel about taking care of this stuff? And like working on building that out. But
yeah,
I think
Feel
that
like-
it. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say it still like boils down to, will the primal help us? Then where do we build? And then building all of this together.
I think at the mention of a boot camp, Ultra would kind of shy away from that a little bit because it sounds intense. Like we're doing military stuff and we're going to get everybody like tip top shape. And it just, so she would float the idea of something like a commune because
Cult.
it's not a cult. It's like a safe haven for people. And like, you know, how people all bring different skill sets who might be able to help in the areas that we don't have skill sets in.
Well,
Cult.
that is a possibility, Ultra, but it also suggests people have to stay and be part of the commune.
What about a testing grounds? Because then it's not a
Yes.
boot camp. Then it's not a we have to stay here, but it's about seeing if you're worthy to be a dragon rider.
So, my concern, this is all ridiculously public. You cannot hide this sort of thing. You have to have protection of some kind, whether that's from a primal, which means putting it near the primal, or a city. There's not really a way that, otherwise it's going to be directly targeted by the one place that is trying to recruit all of the dragon riders, which is currently Cargilia.
Well, what, sans ourselves, what would we need protection for? I know the eggs, if they're out of the discussion and protected by
eggs.
primal.
New dragon riders, like
But this
if
is the
an arm,
testing grounds, Perry, so that people can be tested against, and then we can have our secondary, I suppose, if we were to want to.
They're still going to need protection.
right?
Yes.
Like if an
I'm-
army rolls up and sees that there's a potential for dragons, even if there's not eggs there, they can just take them. They're magically there's a potential for magic. There's mages. They'll start doing stuff with mages with them. Like that's more what I mean. If we're taking hopefuls, that's exactly who they want to recruit. It needs some sort of backing in order to discourage. I know you don't want an affiliation with the city. I get it. I know you don't want to enter politics. You're going to. That's the realistic and unfortunate thing. You can't avoid it unless you go isolationist like we ran into before, where you say no to literally everything.
There is also a difference between politics and alignments and
True.
being the leader of said group. If it were that we are aligned with them, that is a different step than being king, and is a
Right.
different discussion.
And I think that's what I'll end up doing regardless. But you could align with a city, and you would have someone who can help, but not be a part of it, if that makes sense.
There is also Ultra's suggestion of a commune idea, so any folks that wish to stay and grow the community re- instead of returning to their homes.
I know I came from cult, but without that, like, people can come and go and, not forcing teachings on people. It could just be a new home for people who don't know where to go right now. I think instinctively it should hopefully bring people who are lost a place to find their purpose. And maybe that will draw in the right kind of person for Dragon Riders. I don't know.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Rithera?
It's a lot to unpack too. I do like the idea of giving people the choice to choose this if they would like. I do think that that will draw certain people. Now it'll draw extremes. It'll draw people that want to prove themselves to become Dragon Riders. And it will then give people a home when they feel like they don't have anywhere else to be. And that nature of a person might be right for us.
So we're agreed that this is what we want to do. It's just the logistics, I suppose, of
Yeah.
where.
And how?
Which we can potentially answer tomorrow.
Yes. At least a good large chunk of it.
Because if we're thinking about protection, I do think in the deep roots, there is a lot of protection that we don't have to offer. That it's just that primal and its way of existing is protection. We'll also test people to even be able to get there, which in itself, I think, is part of where we need to start.
That's a lot of lives lost in the in the testing phase. Do we not wish to give people the chance to learn to defend themselves in their towns?
I don't know if we have all of that time at this moment
And,
until we get a base started.
and until then, if we started doing that, again, that will look like we're raising an army. Even if it's not the case, that will be an act of aggression seen by the large military that has been forming. These
So-
are good ideals. We have to start cementing certain things first.
I don't want to lose lives. I don't want to put people in the path of danger. But if we're bringing new Dragon Riders, we don't have much time for training others right now. We need people that are already ready.
Yeah, I won't lie. The thought of training a whole group of people like we did sounds like a lot.
I will also interject, just mostly for the people watching, to remind everyone here is about at most 18, 19. And the dragons themselves are getting close to 2 years old.
They were dedicated to our training. And It took a year of intense daily training to even be able to get where we are. Do we have that time to commit?
Perhaps no. I do agree. It's a large large amount of people. There were no survivors from the village, and I suspect there were people who were prepared. It feels like it needs to be more fair.
Well,
Then
I think that will come from the conversation, if any, with the primal. We need to be able to give them a chance, but we need to also see what that primal, its sole character.
So I'm asking, not Cassandra. Are we thinking hide the eggs with the lurker and then have our base camp in the deep roots? Or are we thinking hide the eggs in the deep roots as well as being there and trying to vet people using it?
I'm not sure the place of like central trying to vet people was with the primals at all. I don't think that was decided.
I thought that's what Ruthera meant by...
That's I was
okay.
suggesting that, like, if we have our base with the eggs and everything else in the deep roots, then people coming to find us to become dragon riders do have their own test to be able to get to us in the first place.
I will also say that being the one watching from the outside, as it were, here, I feel like there hasn't really been a decision on what.
No,
what
there's-
to-
None at
Decision
all.
was deal with primal and then go from there.
And then I feel like
Yeah.
we've just continued to circle.
Yep.
I mean,
That's
we're
why
gonna
Perry's
go.
like,
We're gonna go
I
have a
mean,
conversation,
It's
and depending on how that goes, we would like to then say, "Yeah, be free,
Yeah.
do what you want. Just try not to kill everyone. Can we
Yeah.
also live here and you look after us? That'd be great." Guess get the word out, get them to come to us. But if it goes poorly, we're not even planning for that.
yeah. So it's kind of like plan A. There is no plan. Plan B, possibly panic.
There is no.
Let's go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So my
I
question,
mean, that's yeah.
as I think everyone will be going to sleep pretty soon.
Perry's already laid down.
I will lay it.
That's why we're all getting nonsensical. Like, we'll just talk to them.
We'll just talk. I will highlight what I think is probably the 4 most likely places that you are all wanting to go as the deep roots. Lowhold, Cargilia, and the Blackrock Neones Fall. Being the primal in the deep roots, protecting the home, obviously majorly for Perry, but you know, in Lowhold, Cargilia would just be dealing with Cargilia. Essentially, I don't feel like anyone wants to go there, but you know, it is what it is. And Neones Fall for the eggs. I know this is a difficult one. Do we have a consensus on where we're going tomorrow?
The lurker.
Lurker.
Yeah, just talk
Yeah.
about Lurker.
That's
Lurker
what I
just
thought,
right
yeah.
here.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have a chat with the lurker if we can.
Since it's literally here and not has to be in the place where people turn into ice statues.
Correct.
All right. In that case, everyone sleeps, and the morning comes. In the morning, you get up, make your breakfast, and eventually, I guess it's time to go from there. Do we have any thoughts as to how we're contacting the lurker or dealing with this?
I mean, we're gonna go to the tree, right? That's where the seal is. Let me just check my notes real quick. Yeah. It was sealed away by. I mean, there was a note of offer to assist go to the deep roots and negotiating for bones, which sounds not great. For the seal. So I feel. Oh yes, it was. Yeah, I remember. So I guess we'll go to the tree and probably want to see if Argent can. I don't know. Like, we want to try to connect with it like we connected with the mages? And because Argent did that initially with the tree.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to find the source of the seal, not the lurker itself.
And if we want to like connect with the lurker and have a conversation, that would be my thought. Oh, I think we'd be discussing that, so it's not just Cassandra's like, this is what we're doing. What do we want to offer as well if we were to get a boon? What is the benefit for the lurker here, other than like being released, which it's already breaking out?
Stopping people from trying to reseal it.
Not resealing it ourselves.
Not
opening it
ourselves.
Up more.
Maybe speeding up the process.
Yeah.
We were able to slow it down. Well, you and Argent were able to slow it down, but we could probably. It's probably easier to break than it is to reseal.
Okay. Then we'll try.
Try talking to it first, and then the promise of we can release this fully if we are granted a boon of protection. And we will try our best and mutually also aid you when needed. So there's a little give and take.
That's a wide scope.
It is, but Tourmaline felt that its scope was simply to exist. That's it, not to harm. I feel like aiding it in existing and not harming is okay. And we can be clear on that, right?
Don't you think it'll sense if we're trying to be too semantic with it? Maybe.
Possibly. But that's why being clear is okay. We'll protect you from others. We'll help you exist. We won't harm others. Unless they are actively trying to destroy you. I think that's fair. But I'm not the leader. And Barry kind of steps back, looking at Rithera and Cassandra.
I think that's all fair.
Yes, I agree. As long as it's got more direction. If we leave it too wide open, just help, then that's a recipe for disaster.
Agreed.
How do we talk to it? Do we just walk up to it? Say, hey, how's your day going?
What's up, bro?
Well,
Hey, boo.
Argents did connect with it before.
With your help.
So we've learned from our experiences with the mages. So perhaps we can connect with the lurker rather than the seal. It was just what we were following last time. So, okay.
Would you like us to stay back as protection?
I suspect if it goes wrong, then it would more likely be psychological. But sure.
All right then.
Are you happy with this? Of course, you have the option.
I am interested in what will be done. It is intriguing.
Then let's try.
Okay. So, Argent and Cassandra towards the tree,
Yep.
and you would like to interact with the seal again?
Yes. Well, less the seal and more what is being sealed.
Okay. Could I get a power from Argent, please, and a control from Cassandra, please?
Yes.
Any
Yeah.
tags you may have? Let me know.
So I've got mental tether and deeper meld.
Same.
Both of those would work in this situation, yes.
Okay. And Arjun is exactly the same.
Okay.
Awesome sauce.
Aiming for 4s then.
After you.
The power. Ooh,
That's 4 successes.
4 successes.
And
And
Three.
3 successes. Alright. The power is there. The control is good. A little bit of it adds a little instability to your mental functions. Just, you're dealing with controlling quite a lot of power. You reach out and you see the seal, and it is even more faded than it was before. So times are ticking away here. And you see the thread again that goes off into the mountains and away. You do also see a very tenuous thread that leads into the swamp, into the water, and into underneath the hills, underneath the mountain. Harder to follow, but you notice it this time, and it is followable.
I believe this is where its, for lack of a better term, cell will lead.
Let's go.
And
Mentally.
Argent, begins to fly following this thread.
There's kind of like a rush. There's no physical sensation because you are not physical currently. And you follow this thread. Occasionally, you rolled well enough, so occasionally it's hard to follow. But it takes you down into the swamp, into the hill, under the mountain, through rock and through dirt and further, until you find yourselves, apologies, deep, and obviously you can't feel warmth or anything like that currently, but deep in the warm underground, where you hear a and then silence and silence and silence, and then another it's hard to translate to you exactly what you see. The best I can describe to you is, think of like the Kraken. It's like that. There's many kind of curled up octopus like tentacles. It's got this big kind of like more beak mouth type thing. It isn't like a it isn't bulbous like a octopus. It's more kind of like shiny and sleek like a crocodile or something. It's got that kind of like flatness to it there as well. Again, hard to give you details, but in terms of size, bigger than any of your dragons. By quite a lot. And it appears, with the thwomps you're hearing, to be dormant.
Mm-hmm. That hadn't occurred to me. Because it was still awakening. And I almost like whisper to Argent, even though we're not there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't consider it wasn't awake yet.
No, but it still might be able to be communicated with.
I mean, we can try.
It may be even more agreeable.
Maybe less
Sleep may not be
agreeable.
its choice.
I think it was when it was sealed, it was put to sleep, and as it reawakens, the seal is breaking, so we have to decide if we want to break the seal immediately.
If we can somehow communicate with it and offer to wake it up as part of the agreement, perhaps speaking to it through dreams.
I'm here to support you in that, Argent.
We get a mild feeling of pleased that you trust Argent, but also maybe concern because it wasn't necessarily a good idea.
I'm like, I don't know that that's gonna work. But-
Sergeant.
So, to give you a little more information, you are essentially speaking to each other mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, none of this is out loud.
No.
You have not essentially been like, "Hey, yo, what's up? You awake?"
That's what I mean. Like, I'm whispering. I know that it's not
Yeah.
audible, but it's like the feeling of it. Like the feeling that I have to whisper because it's asleep.
Dormant, maybe.
Yeah. So, if you'd like to try, that is up to you. I will support you in that. It's whether it would have any. I suppose we could see if it's would be receptive. In
If
that.
it is very asleep and we cannot have any sort of connection or communication to it, that does answer a question already.
After you.
I will try.
And yeah, Argent is going to attempt essentially another mental tether, but this time to the lurker.
Would you like, before you do that,
She was like, please don't do that.
Or do!
essentially, it would be similar to it would be a similar type of thing to either invading a mind, or like what you have with Cass is essentially a meld and a connection. Either of which would put you at essentially some form of odds with the mind inhabiting the body. You could instead essentially mentally kind of tentatively reach out and be like, hey, what's up? And basically project.
Kind of the idea. The
Okay,
invasion is
okay.
far more aggressive, which
Yeah.
would be definitely seen as aggressive, which is why it's more like a mental like tether of like, hey.
So
Hey.
so you're not walking in the door and wiping your feet, you're knocking on the door and seeing if anyone's home.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
It's a not. That's still like. That's why it's like an attempt of a tether, because there
Yeah.
still has to be a connection.
Yeah.
But doesn't have to be like forced.
Okay, cool. That's much
Yeah.
less worrying from my perspective.
Fair. Yeah, no, just fucking kick down the door.
What up? Let's be bros.
Sup?
I bought beer.
6-pack, let's go.
Okay.
And a bunch of fish.
In that case,
But I figured mental tether is still the tag that would be used here.
yes. You don't need to roll. When you essentially do the equivalent of knocking on the mental door, you feel a stirring, a mental stirring. And this mind is a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish, but still conscious and is vast. So I'll do my best to translate, but essentially consider mentally it's kind of like someone who's hungover and barely awake being like you, except for in a primal being that's been alive for possibly thousands of years. Anyway.
Just little things.
Who disturbs my slumber?
Kind of mentally look at Cass like, should I, And okay, like with the approval, like.
A dragon named Argent and their rider, Cassandra.
You feel a tiny bit of probing. Nothing that is like, again, they're not knocking down the door and
Yep.
wiping their feet. They're just kind of like, essentially like, almost like a blind person feeling someone's face to see what they look like.
Yep.
It's kind of inquisitive.
If it's something like that, Argent would tentatively let them, as in like let them see that it's truthful in being what's spoken.
Yeah.
But not like, you have access to my brain.
Oh, no, not quite.
Yeah.
And why are you here, little snakeling?
To seek mutually beneficial agreements.
What boon could you possibly offer me?
Freedom.
My freedom is now merely a matter of time.
As well as help if people attempt to seal you again.
You probably pull back a bit as a fair amount, like mentally pull back a bit as a fair amount of like anger and rage. But the thing is it's still not awake. It's still slumbering. It's still dormant. So the rage is like there and then falls away. And then there's anger that the rage has gone and then falls away. And
Does it feel directed at Arjun and Cassandra, or rather anger at like a concept kind of thing?
Anger at a concept. Anger at the mention
a moment of being sealed again was where that triggered the anger. Okay, yep.
You come to threaten me.
No, the opposite. Apologies, great old one. We know people are afraid. We also know you do not wish harm. We would like nature to be returned to nature. And kept so. The world is changing for the worse. We do not see you as a part of the worse.
Cassandra would feel Arjun mentally sweating.
I'm like, I'm here.
There's
And leave if we need to. Like,
there's a moment of pause. We can talk. And we will fade out, as this is where we are going to end today, aside from one final thing.
Just dies of stress.
So, as the camera moves away out of the dirt, out of the stone, out of the swamp, to an overhead view among the clouds, looking down at this part of Lais. We see a large clump moving away from Sunswept towards Lowhold. The army of Cagilia is on the move. We see around Harrowhold a grey dragon floating around with a rider on its back. And then the camera swooshes over towards the more central area of Lys, down to a gaudy, rich, ticker tape parade celebration where everyone is out in the streets and cheering and waving little flags as the king of Regalia has been crowned and is parading through the streets. Times are moving, and there is very little time left. And we fade. Okay. Next episode, we'll see what exactly you can manage with Mr. Lurker.
roll persuasion. Okay.
So,
Anyone else super stressed?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Sheepy wondering where you guys were gonna go. Like, I was like, oh god, I've got to prepare for this. And like, where are they gonna go?
Primals.
Primals. It's fine, right?
Well, fine. Everything's fine.
I'm worried about Perry.
I'm not. Perry'll be fine. Perry's great.
I'm worried about Ultra too, a little bit.
No.
Like,
You might need to be.
woken up a little bit. Like, I was worried about Ultra more when she was flat,
Yeah.
because at least sad is a feeling.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
she really disconnected for a bit. Oof.
Can you blame her? It's been a lot.
Okay. Let's do shoutouts and then we'll outro. So I will say let's start off with Perry, Argent, and of course, Dan.
Hello. I'm Domestic Dan.
I get to be the future king under the mountain here in Dragon Riders, much to Cassandra's deep distaste to that. But yeah, play Perry Quartz, Argent, and I mentioned it in chat, but it's kind of interesting that this started as a show with us being like, well, why did dragons? And now it's political drama. So, even though literally everyone, I also appreciate that basically, Perry and Cassandra kind of swapped almost in their mentalities. Whereas Perry was just like, everything's great, and we just get to have fun and build things, and there's no future planning, and it's totally cool. And because I was like, must read, must plan for everything. And now it's like, but we don't everyone can be neutral. It's fine. And Perry's like, that's not how it works. We saw that's not how it works. And it's gone completely the opposite now. Where Perry's like, no, this neutrality doesn't exist, and you're all really naive. So anyway, that's me. This has been fun.
Yes, and if you like Dan, you want to see more of what he does, just down below there's a Domestic Dan on the title, and links below for the Twitch and for the YouTube. And Hot Potato.
To KPP.
Hello. I'm Katie Pierce Plays. I played Emo Ultra for you today and Tourmaline, and you can catch me on Twitch at Katie Pierce Plays. I'm not sure everything's going to end up okay, but I'm nervous about where this is going to... We only have a couple more episodes.
One more.
We have one more. So it'll be fine. You can catch me on Twitch at Katie Pierce Plays. Like I said, I'm playing Resident Evil, the first one right now, and I've been really liking it. And then I'll be playing The Last of Us for the first time after that, I think, if my shoulder will hold up okay. I don't know what else to say. Just follow everybody here, because you won't regret following everybody.
Potato?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know. The potato goes to
Potato.
Potato.
Potato. Been playing Cassandra, and we didn't really see Cinzia today, and Cinzia had a nap, which is fine. It is interesting with Cassandra and Perry swapping. I feel like Cassandra coming from a very political background, she's like, we just need to not have that at all because it just gets too entangled. So that's really fun. Yeah, I'm pretty freaking concerned. Like, Cassandra is ready to protect Argent, but hopefully it won't come to anything like that, because that's terrifying. But we trust in Argent. We know he can do whatever he sets his mind to, so it's gonna do great. Not worried at all. And I'm Tashna. I do lots of Final Fantasy 14. I do makeup on stream. I cook sometimes, but I'm very lazy and I don't have my kitchen set up. So that's it. I'm gonna hop to Ellie.
Thank you. I played Rithera and Ardor for you today. I do a lot of variety. I played Destiny 2 this week and was very excited for a new expansion. But I'm also playing Minish Cap, and I'm very excited that Metroid Fusion is coming to the Switch, so we'll probably be playing that next.
I hope they link it to remastered. I don't think they are, because it used to originally link to Prime on the GameCube, and you get cool fusion armor in Prime. Anyway, that's okay. I appreciate that's I love it. But yeah, we're probably going to play some Metroid, and that's it. I don't know. I talk a lot, and it takes me 5 million years to play games. So that's it. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. And down below, there are all the thingamajigs down below. And I think I'm just leaving this stressed out. And off to Shibi.
Hello, I'm Sheepdog. I run the Wandering Inn. I made this system. It's a lot of fun. If you like it, the details of it are up on Patreon. Go check out the Patreon. As little as $3 a month, you can support and help me pay the cost and help me do more shows as we get more people joining the Patreon. Aside from that, go follow everyone. They're awesome and they do gaming things, which I don't really do. So they can fulfill a need I can't. But seeing as we need to dip reasonably quickly, the last thing I'll say is that yes, it is the finale of Season 2 tomorrow. So it will be the last episode of Dragon Riders.
Next week, not tomorrow. Don't show up tomorrow for this.
Sorry, yeah, not tomorrow.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, hold on, it is? All right, I gotta change my plans.
In an hour is the finale of Dragon Ride. No, So next week, next Friday, same time, is the finale of Dragon Riders Season 2. However, I'm very much enjoying Dragon Riders, and I have a lot of plans, so there will be a Season 3, and I have some plans on that Season 3. It won't be till later this year, of course, but, follow the Discord, follow the Twitter, all those things, you'll find out about it. I'm also planning on expanding the Dragon Rider system to be a bit more working in other things as well. Maybe a few other things, maybe. Who knows? I like the system. I want to work on it more. So, thank you for watching, everyone. Really hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week for the finale, QT, on the Monday. And yeah, we'll see you later. Have a good week. Mute.